Let's talk about Drake Maye and the expectations for him, and also the fact that what do you sense based on the schedule that they have early is, do you think there's any chance we'll see Drake Maye as a rookie?
I do. I think we'll see him as a rookie, and I think so much of it, Mike, is going to be contingent on how the team does. And obviously they are, ticketed as a team that's going to be a top 5 picking team again. And they have a difficult schedule. But if you look at the opportunities for him to come in and play, I look at it as probably not until after Halloween. And what it gets interesting, and you could probably speak to this as well, is, well, what if the team is 3-5 or 4-6 or whatever it is at that point? Do you want to say to everybody, okay, we're bringing in the rookie? Because by then, Jacoby Brissett might have played pretty well to get them to that point. So it's an interesting way to look at it because he's not going to get the amount of work. I think what they're doing is bracing us for the idea that don't even look at what's going on behind the curtain. It's Jacoby until further notice.
Well, Tom, I'm curious your thoughts on whether or not seeing Drake Maye would be a good thing or not for his development. Like, is just the importance of getting NFL reps a good thing for him? Or I feel like a common theme that we talk about in the NFL all the time is more young quarterbacks are ruined than they are developed. Should he continue to sit and develop and grow from that standpoint? Like, how do you view those two items?
I view it as a team that really does not have a very good offensive line, and they have a lot of mid-tier wide receivers. They don't have anybody explosive on offense. So to me, if you're plugging somebody down, like, say, for instance, J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota, he's going to be plunked down in an offense with an offensive coach and a system that's been there and has a great opportunity to succeed. This is going to be a first-year offensive coordinator, a first-year head coach who's going to defer to the offensive coordinator and to Ben McAdoo to run the offense. So to me, I think you could do some damage to a player if you're not, as a coaching staff, equipped yet. I'm not saying they're ill-equipped, but not equipped yet to know what your personnel does for you on offense. And the offensive line, Mike, we looked at it last year. Yes, sir.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It was so bad on the offensive line last year with Mac that it didn't even give him a chance to really prove that he was as bad as he ended up being. So to me, you don't want to go starting down that same road again. If you can't protect him, if he doesn't have people to throw to, you're just going to retard his progress.
Well, we often would say when I was there, the hardest job in football is going to be to replace the head coach because of all the titles he's won. And Mayo walks into a job that he's not going to be involved with the offense. He's not going to be involved with the defense. He's not going to be involved with the kicking game. Explain to me what Mayo is going to be involved with.
Well, to me, and I think it's interesting when you look at the Patriots and the way they did it, Mike, for all those years, Bill was more of a hands-on head coach than I think a lot of head coaches generally are. In terms of, he coached the offensive line for the last 2 years, as you know. His involvement with the defense was kind of minimal last year. So to me, Mayo was following the path of, like, say, a Tomlin, for instance, or a Sirianni, somebody who is supposed to be the overseer. And you go to your coordinators and your quote-unquote department heads as the coordinators to see how their managers of the positions are doing. So it's going to be a much more conventional, I think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong on that, it's a much more conventional NFL setup than what the Patriots have had. Because you always knew where the buck was going to stop with Bill.
Tom Curran, Patriots Insider, joining us on the Progressive Guest Line. You can follow him on X at Tom E. Curran. But let's keep going with the Jerod Mayo of it all. What's your perception been of him to this point as he has taken over? How has he been received, and what have you noticed most from him? Your big takeaways?
I think what's really interesting is, as much as Bill underachieved in the last couple of years, free agency-wise, draft-wise, some of the decisions that he made, as much as he underachieved, I think that people look past the 4-13 record in the 2022 season and they really miss Bill. And they look at Mayo and say, well, you have to live up to the things that Bill did from 2000 to 2019. And I think that's a very difficult thing for Mayo to even really grasp. Now, when we look at all the times, Mike, you saw it too, that Robert Kraft's saber rattled toward Bill. I need to see improvement. We need to be a playoff team. We have playoff potential. I think we're going to be good. And if not, there'll have to be some consequences. Really forced his hand to, when the Patriots were as bad as they were, he had to make a move. I don't think that they wanted to make that move. I don't think they ever believed they were going to be moving on from Bill Belichick when they were entering last season. I don't think anyone saw a 4-13 record. So the entire timeline has been accelerated. They're not ready yet for a new coach, but they were not ready to have Bill do the rebuild. That's basically what it amounts to. They didn't want Bill to be in charge of spending the free agent money, developing the new quarterback, and that is really where the rubber meets the road. So I think they're a year ahead of where they expected to be in their succession plan. And I think that as a result, it's going to be a big learning year for Mayo.
What do you think is acceptable year for the Kraft family with Jonathan involved, with Robin Glazer involved, with Elliott Wolf now running everything, with Bill not coaching and developing a quarterback, Covington running the defense? What do you think a successful season looks like to you, Tom?
Just have it look better by the end of the year. And you were here for some of those times where traditionally the Patriots after Thanksgiving were a beast. No one wanted to deal with them. And really since 2019, after Thanksgiving, they have floundered. So if you can look better toward the end of the season, then that's a victory, because it's not a good team. It doesn't have a lot of talent, and it's got a massive learning curve ahead of it. So if you are, look, you remember 1993 as well as anybody, Drew Bledsoe's first year in the league. They were 1-11 through 12 games. Bledsoe had a 5-pick game. The second game they won that year, they won 7-2. But they closed the season with 4 consecutive wins. Can you have that kind of a close to your December and signal some growth on the coaching staff, signal some growth at quarterback position? It's a radical difference from where the Patriots were. And you saw that when the schedule came out, and the fact that we got nothing but Sunday at 1, Sunday at 1, Sunday at 1.
Also, when the schedule came out, you couldn't help but notice how challenging it is. We all knew what the opponents were going to be prior to that schedule release day, but when it did come out and you saw everything laid out in front of you on paper, what was your immediate reaction?
It's an unbelievably difficult time for them to try and rebuild, because there's no off weeks, especially in their division with Josh Allen, Tua, and the complement of players Tua has around him, and Aaron Rodgers, if he plays like Aaron Rodgers and makes it into the season. So in their own division, they got 2 challenging games against very good quarterbacks. They're outside the division against very good quarterbacks. I mean, I think defensively, it's going to be similar to last year. What they need to have is a uniform way of approaching how to play offensive football, that they can actually attack it in a way that seems as if there's a plan there. Because in the last 2 years, post-Josh, it was very haphazard, because they weren't sold on the quarterback, and then they had made the missteps with the coaching succession plan. And then once they were out on Jones, it was really just biding time to get to the next year. So to me, it's going to be a really, really challenging schedule for them. And it's going to be a lot of times where the Patriots are small print at the bottom of the ag in terms of people looking to see how they did.